Lion. Idei Rua Ubal Idatem. Amarei Hashtika Hayafa Yehohanei Imna. Lo Tishlot Ainzar.
Gather underneath or behind the tent to show your support for the family. We'll ask you to gather behind the chairs. Please feel free to take a seat if you need to.
Friends, we are about to begin the service for Mr. Lester R. Gordon. I would ask any of you who have a cellular phone to please turn it to the off position. Officiating our service today will be Rabbi Jeffrey Weil.
We will begin with the ancient ceremony of Kriya. Kriya means tearing, and in our sacred scriptures, when something shocking or terribly sad would happen, our biblical forebears would tear their garments to expose really their wounded and vulnerable hearts. The word kriya is a tearing of a ribbon of a garment and a tear in the heart. So I ask Gail and Steve and Rick to rise, please, as we recite the blessing for kriya. Acknowledges God as the judge of truth. Baruch atah Adonai. Say that, please. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam. Dayan ha'emet. Blessed are you, eternal our God, the judge of truth. We say amen. Amen.
So I'm just going to make a little tear, and then you're going to tear up. Tear up. How far? A little tiny bit.
Adonai, ma Adam v'teta ehu, ben enosh v'techashvehu. Adam lehevel dama, yamav ketzel over b'boki etzitz v'chalaf, la'erev himalel v'yavesh. Tashev enosh ad daka v'tomer, shuvu v'nei Adam. These are the words of the psalmist saying, Adonai, eternal God, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you would even be mindful of us? We are all of us just a breath. Our days like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning it shoots up and is renewed, and in the evening of all of our lives, it fades and withers. But God, you cause all of us to return unto dust, saying, Shuvu v'nei Adam, return, O mortal ones. Would that we were wise, and would that we would know whither we go from here, for when we die, we take nothing with us, not our riches, not our glory, but God, you say, Shmor Tam Urei Yashar. Mark the wholehearted, behold the upright. Those are the ones who shall find shalom, who shall find peace. And friends, I don't think that we could find anyone more wholehearted and upright and kind and loving and decent than Lester Gordon. And may he find shalom, peace, may he especially find shalom in the embrace and next to his dear Norma. Adonai mi agor ba'ohalecha, mi ishkon b'har kodshecha, holek tamim ufo el tzedek, v'dover emet bilvavo, lo ragal al lishono, lo asa l'rei'uhu ra'a, v'chapa lo nasa al krovo. Eternal God, who may abide in your house? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, those who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts and in their words, those who would not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, those who scorn lawlessness and honor others who revere Torah, those who give their word and come what may will not retract it, those who would never exploit others, those who live in such a way will never be shaken. Our sacred scriptures, thankfully, has something to say for every moment in our lives, the times of joy, of course, the simchas, the smachot, and also for times of sadness as well. And at a time like this, we invoke the words of the 23rd Psalm, which is in your handouts. I will read it first in Hebrew, and then we can recite it together in English. It's on the inside panel of our handouts. Adonai ro'i lo echzar, bino desha yarbiteni, al mei minuchot yinahaleni nafshi shovev, yancheni v'maglei tzedek l'ma'an shemo. Gam ki elech b'geit samavet, lo ira ra ki ata imadi. Shivtechad mishantecha, hema yinachamuni. Ta'aroch l'fanai shulchan, neged sorai, dishanta v'shemen roshi, kosi ravaya. Ach tov v'chesed yudafuni kol yemei chaya, v'shafti b'veit Adonai, la'orech yamim. We read together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The familiar third chapter of Kohelet, or Ecclesiastes, conveys this idea that things in our lives are unfolding as they ought to unfold, that there's a time for all the vicissitudes in our lives, both the good and the bad. Sometimes that is hard actually to accept during sad times, but this idea that things have their time and their place within our lives is one that our tradition guides us to. For everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, a time when we must refrain from our embraces, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time for silence and a time to speak. And so this is an appropriate time to speak words in tribute and memory of the good man, Lester Gordon. Our sage from Talmud, Ben Zoma, asked in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, asked a series of questions, and he gave the answers to those questions as well. Who is wise, he asked, and he gave an answer. The wise one is one who learns from all others. And who is rich? The one who is rich is one who is satisfied with his or her portion, his or her lot. And who is honored? And the one who is honored is the one who honors others. All great questions and all perfect answers. And all of them, of course, applied to Lester Gordon. We know that he was wise, that he was satisfied with his portion, which is the love that he had around him, and that was good. And we know that he was honored, as you will honor him, as we do, for he did honor others. So we know that that all applied to him. But there's one question, actually, that I wish Ben Zoma, the sage, did ask in that little part of Ethics of the Fathers in Pirkei Avot. But he didn't ask that question. But I'll ask it on his behalf. It really aptly captures Lester Gordon. Ezehu ahuv, who is loved, or who is beloved? And the answer ought to be ha'ohev et kol habriot. The one who is beloved is the one who loves all creatures, all others. This would have been a good one for Lester, for it truly applied to him. He was, for sure, many things to many people throughout his 95 years on this earth. But the common denominator in all of his relationships, as I believe that we can all testify to, was the love that he brought to his relationships. And what was that love? How is it exemplified? It was his sweetness. It was his kindness, that love which he extended to all who crossed his path. Those who crossed his path were lucky to have done so. Lester was the second child of George and Fanny, younger brother to Muriel. May they all four of them, rest in peace. He had a happy childhood. George supported the family through the business founded in 1910, Gordon Brothers, now in existence for more than 110 years. Lester's childhood was a happy childhood. Surrounded by family, he and his parents and Muriel would visit their grandparents on Sundays. Extended family lived nearby. Those were good days. I didn't live in those days, but I'm imagining those were good days. On the weekends, the Gordon family would head to their cottage in South Haven. It was a non-rushed drive because there was no expressway at the time. And Lester and Muriel, brother and sister, enjoyed a wonderful relationship throughout their lives. They enjoyed also those summer days, those halcyon summer days. Ice cream in South Haven, the beach, watching their dad fix things around the cottage. That was a great thing that George was able to do, not a skill necessarily passed down to his son Lester. After high school, Lester headed down to University of Illinois. He made good friends there. He was in a fraternity. He made friends that he enjoyed seeing later in life too, with the weekly lunches with his fraternity brothers, friends from childhood, and more. He valued those kinds of relationships. Following college, Lester took his place at Gordon Brothers, and there he remained. His father, George, died not many years later at all, and Lester's responsibility at the time, Lester was only 25 years old at that time, sadly, but his responsibilities at the business seriously increased. And there were other responsibilities as well, accruing for him at that time. Love, marriage, and the family that grew from it. On Lester and Norma's first date, Lester, typically open and always assuming the best and positive, was impressed with his date. Norma, not yet. Hard to believe, considering who Lester was, his unstinting sweetness. But Norma was always more reserved, and she evaluated others carefully. Ultimately, she evaluated Lester accurately, thank God, for they married, and that launched a 66-year marriage of genuine respect and shared values and deep love. Lester was managing things at work, and Norma was managing their family, their growing family, Gail, Steve, and Rick. at their home on Samoset in Timber Ridge. Lester worked hard. He worked many hours throughout the week. He worked on some weekends too, but he also provided a needed respite for Norma when he was home. When the kids were little, he bathed them. On Sundays, he would take them out. They'd go sledding or ice skating or to museums. Lester, always a proud Jew, and I can attest to that because I would see him at synagogue, would bring Steve to Minion at Niles Township Jewish congregation, to which the Gordons have thankfully remained connected to for so many years. He was, and I would say particularly for a father of his generation, a very involved dad. He was there, he was present. He was playful, he was lenient. Lester was definitely the chill Gordon parents. Norma, on the other hand, had a nickname, I'm assuming that I can say this, Warden Gordon. Even the dogs understood this, because it was under Lester's legs that they would hover during dinner, waiting for the forbidden scraps from the hand of their kind master. Lester made Gordon Brothers no less of a warm and caring environment. Yes, Gordon is on the letterhead, of course, but all knew that the employees there worked with, not for, and that Lester was friend, not boss. No wonder the folks who worked there spent long and fruitful careers there, entire careers, from their young adulthood throughout their lives, really. Lester loved that place. He loved it in the early years, in the middle years, and in later years as well. He loved heading into the warehouse to chat with employees, customers, whoever they might be, regardless of background or anything like that. And all who interacted with that business, knew the uprightness of Lester Gordon and of the business that bears the family name. They knew it then, and they know it now. For Lester and Norma's strong moral code, their sheer decency, their ethical behavior was transmitted through word and deed to Gail, Steve, and Rick. They, the children, imbibed their parents' values, which have in turn been passed on so clearly down to the next generation, Alec, Carly, and Eric. As grandparents, Lester and Norma were not merely loving and supportive grandparents. They were that for sure to the three grandchildren, but they were truly, and Carly will speak in a little bit, they were friends. They were their grandchildren's friends. And yes, unfailingly devoted and committed to them, attending baseball and basketball games, dance recitals, taking them out, Tuesdays at Manny's, theater, downtown, theater at the Marriott. For Alec, Carly, and Eric, it has been truly a lifetime for you, your entire lives, of the love of your grandparents' support, and during times of instability, they provided needed stability. Lester, with his family and with others, just understood things. He understood when someone needed a little bit of attention, a simple phone call during challenging times. And it's not like he would necessarily inquire by saying, like, what's going on with this detail of this situation? What development do we have now? That's not what he was doing necessarily. He was just reaching out, a simple phone call. He just sensed, because he could do that, and not everyone can. He was able to sense when it was the right time to check in, to reach out. It is really hard to quantify this aspect of a person and this aspect of Lester Gordon. It was just something that everybody felt and everybody knew. The sweetness within him, it was shining. It was a shining gem, rare and beautiful. Some, not many, some possess souls like that. Souls with that spark. Souls with a greater capacity for love. Souls with a greater measure of kindness. That was Lester Gordon. He didn't put it on blatant display, as you know. He was soft-spoken, not overly effusive. It was in him as a strength, a soft strength. His kindness simply, naturally, consistently abided within that man, to the benefit of all of us and to many, many more as well. I personally loved watching Lester Gordon come to services on Shabbat morning, which he did on a fairly regular basis. He'd enter our sanctuary at Ezra Habanim, the Niles Township Jewish congregation, old school, jacket and tie. And during Torah processionals, he had his seat. So during Torah processionals and after services, he and I would chat. He would update me on what was going on with all of you. And invariably, he would ask me on what was going on with my family with genuine interest. He would ask, he would look at me, he would listen. It was real. It is no wonder he was such a beloved man, beloved by Seth and Stephanie, beloved by other relatives, beloved by friends of Gail, Steve, and Rick, beloved certainly by Danny, beloved by folks at Gordon Brothers who would ask, "Where's Pops?" Pops was around. He was always around. Eventually, he would drive down there, and Norma would drive home. He would go in one direction, she would drive in the other direction. Interesting that these two people who were rather different, traveling the same road, but in different ways, sort of emblematic of who they were, of their relationship. Also interesting is this: when we all gathered here just about a year and a half ago for to say goodbye to Norma, we were just about to celebrate Sukkot. And now here we are to lay to rest Lester, and we are just about to celebrate Passover. Those are our 2 week-long Chagim, our only 2 week-long Chagim, the biblical holidays, on opposite ends of the calendar. Sukkot, 6 months later, Passover. It's like they're 2 poles of the Jewish year, and both Norma and then Lester departed this earth at those poles, at opposite poles, but around which a world revolves. And when Norma passed away, that opposite pole for him, that other side to the axis of his life, was gone. And boy, did he mourn. We know that. And yet surely love does not disappear, of course. Love only grows. That's how love is. And his love remained. It remained for her, and it remained for all of you as well. For that is who Lester was. For those he loved, he desired only the best. He wanted your lives, your futures, your loves to sparkle like a gem, like the ring that graced Norma's finger and now graces Carly's. May the love that Lester Gordon shined upon you, us, in the past, continue to shine upon you, us, in the future as well. May his love magnify your love for each other, and may it be a model inspiration for us all. Zichrono Tzadik Livracha. May Lester Gordon's righteous memory be for blessing. Amen. Please call forward Rick Gordon.
Dad was here right now, he'd say thank you to every one of you. That's who he was. The most genuine person I've ever known. Genuine is the one word that always comes up when I speak to anybody about Pops. And there are many, many, many more words. Sweet, honest, fair, caring, giving, on and on and on. And for 60 years, I've had the pleasure of being his son. For 40 plus years, I've had the honor of working with him. He taught me how to conduct myself, how to be honorable, how to be fair, how to treat others with respect and honesty. He didn't tell me to be that way, it's just who he was. And over the past few days, I've spoken to friends, co-workers, business associates, school friends from first grade all the way through college. And they all say the same thing. He was the nicest man. So I'm going to leave it at that, because this world just lost the nicest man. Rest in peace, Pops. I love you.
Carly? Pleased to hear from Carly.
As many of you here know, I am not usually someone that is at a loss for words. But as I sat down to write this, I kept asking myself, how do I find the words to describe the most wonderful man to ever walk this earth? I decided to try to do that by telling you all how my sweet pops made me feel. My papa made me feel loved unconditionally every single day of my life. I never felt alone for 1 second because I knew if I ever needed anyone or anything, he'd be there. And he would be there, as he would say, with bells on. He made me feel perfect just the way I am, no matter what I did. He made me feel like I deserved the world, and he gave it to me. Pops made me feel supported in everything I did. He made me feel like every decision I made was the right one, especially when I brought Danny home. Just a few days after my grandma passed away, he gave Danny and I my grandma's engagement ring. He told me that it was what he and Grandma wanted, and that he hoped that Danny and I had a marriage like theirs, one full of love, genuine adoration, and a true partnership. I cannot think of a better love story to follow. He loved my grandma more than anyone in this world, and watching him live without her was watching true heartbreak. My papa lived for his family. There wasn't anything he wouldn't do for us. He literally would give his own leg for his family, and he tried to. After my dad's accident, my papa would beg me every day to have the doctors take something from him to save my dad an ounce of pain. I could talk forever about my sweet pops. I could stand here for hours and tell you all of the things that he's done that just make him so special. I could tell you how he would overnight me my favorite Bialys when I was in college, bring me Starbucks every Saturday afternoon, and pay all of my parking tickets without a moment's hesitation. But what I really want to say to my pops is thank you. Thank you for giving me the world. Thank you for being the stability in my life that I always needed. Thank you for being my shoulder to cry on during my worst moments and my biggest cheerleader at all of the best ones. Thank you for showing me what true love is. Thank you for being my Ain and Ainsaker. Thank you for being my friend. Pops would end every single one of our phone calls by telling me that it's the biggest honor and privilege to be my grandfather. Pops, the honor and privilege is all mine. I love you forever. Give Grandma a kiss for me.
Steve, you wanted to share. Steve Gordon.
It's hard to believe this day is here. In so many ways, it's like he never left. So much of him lives on in me, my brother, my sister, his grandchildren, his niece, his grandniece, his grandnephew, and all those who feel his spirit each and every day. His love and devotion to my mother during their 66-year marriage was like no other. My dad was a man's man in the sense that he was that perfect combination of toughness, wit, and compassion. Wisdom with no bounds. No fire could burn his character. No stone could break it. On that blueprint, he built an empire. His friendship, that was the greatest gift you could ever obtain. My dad was an example of what hard work and education will achieve. Every step he took had purpose. Every walk had reason. Today we remember that purpose, that passion, and the army he assembled stands at attention, honoring his legacy, especially at Gordon Brothers, where his spirit echoes in every turn. Now he is gone and we miss him, but in so many ways, he's still right here. I love you, Dad.
Rick and Carly and Steve, thank you. Thank you so much. Leida hi reshit uftirat tachlit hachaim kamasahem kahalicha tzmicha v'shalav l'shalav. Birth is a beginning, death a destination, life a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. And now the long, good journey of the life of Lester R. Gordon has come to its conclusion. O God, we see life as through windows that open unto eternity. We see that love endures, that the soul endures, just as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are actually more than grass that withers, more than a flower that fades. They actually weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and your glory. We now rise, if it's comfortable for you to do so, for the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Pamromim, Hamatzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezoha Harakim Asirim, Et Nishmat Ruvain Lev and Yaakov Yosef, Shahalach L'Olamo, Baal Harachamim Yasirehu B'Sefer Kenafav L'Olamim, Ritzor B'Tzor HaChaim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'Yanuach B'Shalom, Al Mishkavo, V'Nomar. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence with the pure and the holy who glow like the light of the heavens to Lester Gordon, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence and within the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And we say, Amen. You may be seated. It is customary to put earth from the land of Israel in the grave of a Jew. It represents the hope for a better future, a messianic future, ultimately just the age-old enduring Jewish belief and hope, I should say hope and belief, steadfast belief in a better future for all of humanity. Al Mikomo Yavo B'Shalom. May Lester Gordon come to his eternal home in peace. Amen. In a moment, we will recite Mourner's Kaddish. And after we recite Mourner's Kaddish, I'll ask those who are here to support the mourning family to repeat after me traditional words of comfort to them. And then you'll be invited, following the family first, and then everyone else, to put 3 measurefuls of earth into the grave, as is the custom. The custom is also, if possible, to leave you'll have the opportunity to use the pail with the sand in it and the trowel, or the big clod of earth with where there are a couple of shovels or a shovel. You have Mourner's Kaddish in your handouts. O God, help us to understand that grief and love go hand in hand, that the pain which loss inflicts is the measure of a love that is stronger than death. Though we cry in the anguish of our hearts, May we be like children who know that the ultimate parent, you, O God, is near, and who cling unafraid to your trusted hand. In this spirit, O God, do we commit all that is precious to us into your keeping, as we now recite the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Ready? Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'Alma Divra Chirutei v'Amlich Machutei v'Chayechon uVyomechon uVchaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala uVizman Karib Imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach La'olam Ulamei Amayam. Yit Barach v'Yish Tabach v'Yit Pa'ar v'Yit Romam v'Yit Naseh v'Yit Hadar v'Yit Aleh v'Yit Halal Shemei Dekudesha Barichu La'ela Min Kol Birchata v'Shirata Tushbechata v'Nechemata Da'amiran B'Alma v'Miru Amen. Yehei Shlam Rab Amin Shemayim v'Chaim Aleinu v'Al Kol Yisrael v'Imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Romav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu v'Al Kol Yisrael v'Imru Amen. Now please, all of you who are gathered here to support the Gordon family, the mourners, please recite these words after me. May God console you with all who mourn in Zion and Jerusalem. Hamakom yinechem etchem betosha avalei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. Now go forth in peace unto life. Others are welcome to come forward as well. There's the pail, and there are two shovels on either side of the mound of earth.
Friends, for those of you who are online and also for those present, Shiva will take place at the Gordon Residence 2 Court of Harborside, apartment 305, Northbrook, Illinois, 60062, following the service until 9 p.m. Memorial contributions could be made to the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois. That address is both on your folders, and for those of you who are online, it's on our website. Families should know no more sorrow. We will now conclude the live stream.